what does success look like for Lieutenant Governor Varnam?
I think it's working with the governor to pass bold initiatives and bold legislation and being a leader in our country and in the Midwest.
What do you got for me? Yeah, what do you got for me? Baby, would you stand and fight?
All right, Mr. David Varnam, welcome to the Cooley Conservatives Speakeasy conversation. Before we get into the bulk of our conversation, I want to remind everybody, it takes a lot of coffee to keep this operation running. I'm on my second cup and I'm starting to run out. So if you don't mind, please head over to CooleyConservatives.com. It looks just like this. There's a little buy me a coffee button down there at the bottom right corner. I really appreciate all your generosity. All right, now that advertisement is out of the way, let's have a conversation. Mr. David Varnam, welcome again. You and I have known each other for a few years. You're a regular at the Cooley Conservatives Independence Day Loggers game that we have been doing annually, almost 10 years now. We've been doing it, but we've very much welcome you and your daughters when you come there. And so we've gotten to know each other a little bit over the years. But for those in my audience who are not familiar with you, tell them a little bit about yourself, your background, and what called you into this life of service.
Yeah, so I hope you want me to go back as far back as I'm thinking, but I actually grew up in Southern California. I became a Christian in college. I transferred universities from a state university in California to California Baptist University, where I thought that I was being led into ministry, but wasn't really 100% sure about that. Shortly after that, ended up being accepted to the Focus on the Family College Institute. And so I was going to spend a semester at the Christian ministry Focus on the Family that was founded by Dr. Dobson. I interned there and fell in love with public policy. And it's really interesting. I'm going to chase a rabbit trail here for a second, but
Sure thing.
You have to intern as part of the program. And I ranked my choices, and I thought, maybe Christian ministry is for me, but I'm not really sure where. I put assistant to Dr. Dobson as my number one choice. And I was interviewed to intern with Dr. Dobson, and I was one of 3 finalists. And I was interviewed by his personal assistant, and then he called me the next day, and he said, I wanted you to hear this from me, but I was praying about this, and you were qualified. He goes, I think you do a great job for Dr. Dobson, but I really think that you are supposed to intern in public policy. And so I have called the college program, and I have told them that they need to put you in public policy, that that's where you need to intern. And I was disappointed, but I fell in love with it. And when I was done with the college program and my internship, they said, if you would like to come back when you graduate, I had 1 semester left. They said, we would like to have you back. And I found out a few days before I graduated that I was going to be working with Dr. Dobson, that I was going to be a federal legislative policy analyst for the ministry, which was a position they had just created. So there'd be somebody dedicated to what was going on with federal legislation. And
that's cool.
Yeah. And I had been out of college about a week. And there I was working with Dr. Dobson in the studio, and I wasn't even 22 years old yet. And so very cool.
Wow.
I worked there for 2 years, and then I went back home to marry my high school sweetheart, Jessica, who needed to wrap up college, and then went to medical school. And during that time, I worked for Congressman Gary Miller, who was a conservative from the Orange County area of Southern California. I had worked with his office when I was at Focus on the Family. And then after she completed medical school, my wife did her medical residency in Texas, Tyler, Texas. And shortly after we arrived, we found out she was pregnant. And I became a stay-at-home dad. Yeah. So my background had been working with Dr. Dobson, congressional aide, to changing diapers and being home full time. And I love
really important stuff.
Yeah, really important stuff. I know how to deal with dirty diapers,
Perfect for politics.
Exactly right. And when she was done with medical residency, we had really prayed about where to go. And my wife really wanted to do rural medicine. And we fell in love with this listing through the Christian Medical and Dental Association in Lancaster, Wisconsin. And we came up here to interview, and this is where God had us to be. And we moved here I have another daughter now, Abigail, and I've been a stay-at-home dad. But right around the same time that my youngest daughter, Abigail, started preschool was when I was elected mayor. I served a few years as a council member prior to that, but I've been a stay-at-home dad their whole life. But even when I was mayor, take him to school, drop him off, go to City Hall or wherever else I needed to be, and pick them up. They grew up going to chili feeds, fish fries, and everything else. And if
What a
you
great blessing.
yeah, and if you see me on the campaign trail, especially on the weekends, you'll see one or both daughters with me. They've been going out just about every weekend or day that they're off, uh, along with me so that we can catch up. In fact, my oldest daughter is 15 and a half and needs those drivers training hours. And so she's been going with me on the longer hauls so that she can get some practice on the highways and the interstates. But just blessed by that time and how God moved my life and brought me in directions that I didn't expect. And quite honestly, I always go back to the fact that God uses ordinary people to do extraordinary
Mhm.
things. And I'm not saying I'm extraordinary. It's just not what I thought when I became a Christian. And looking back, it's been amazing the experiences I've had, the things I've been able to see and be a part of. And I never would have guessed that. And the fact that I can say I worked with Dr. James Dobson personally, the fact that I worked for a member of Congress, been a mayor of a city, just some amazing blessings, including all the time I've been able to have with my two daughters who are now
Yeah.
15 and a half and 12. And the fact that they've been able to spend a lot of time with their dad growing up was really important to me because my parents divorced when I was 9 years old. And
Mhm.
that's why we moved to California. We were actually in Rhode Island at the time, and we moved in with my grandparents, my mom and my brothers and I. And I didn't grow up with a father per se around all the time. I did have my grandfather, but it was always important to me to be a really good dad to my kids. And the fact that I've been able to spend so much time with them has really been a blessing to me.
That's awesome, man. God bless you for that, and, you know, like you said, I mean, what a blessing to be able to spend that kind of quality time with your daughters. That I know I was talking with some friends recently about and I tell this to people at work all the time, being in software engineering as I have been the last, oh my gosh, 15 years probably, really working from home a lot, when the kids were in school. What a blessing to be there, driving them to school, picking them up. You'd be able to work from home. I mean, sure, I'm working my tail off during the day, but having a little bit of flexibility like that, it is such a blessing. And to be a stay-at-home dad, to be able to be there for all those moments, that's great news, man. I love to hear that.
Yeah,
Well, the
it's been a
first
blessing
question
to
I
be
wanted to
part of.
jump into, you are running for lieutenant governor in the state of Wisconsin. Tell me about how does the experience that you have in the past, how does that prepare you for this kind of a role?
I think I have a very unique background, and I think that's exactly what you want for the role of lieutenant governor. Someone that can wear a lot of different hats, has a lot of different knowledge and background in that knowledge. When I worked for Congressman Miller, he was a member of Congress who sat on transportation and financial services. And in the district office, I was his district housing, water, and transportation aide in a suburban Los Angeles office. And then I've been a rural mayor having to deal with housing, water, transportation, tax levies, balancing a budget, all of that. I think it's such a unique experience. And I'm the one living it, but it's given me so much knowledge that I think would be ideal for the role of lieutenant governor. And not only have I been an aide to Dr. Dobson and to Congressman Miller, but I was the first mayor in more than 20 years in Lancaster to veto anything. And I've done it multiple
Oh,
times. And one of them was a 40% stormwater fee increase. I've also broken a tie on a wheel tax to help defeat it. Not help to, I did defeat it. uh,
nice.
and when I left office, Lancaster was the city in Grant County with the lowest tax levy and the lowest utility fees. And so I felt like what I ran on, I accomplished. What I said I was going to do, I did. And I feel like that's also important to be able to say when you're running for a position that is an executive position. Because
Mhm.
heaven forbid something happens to the governor, I have experience of having to make these decisions and being able to say that I did what I said I was going to do. I also think it helps when it comes to an important role of the lieutenant governor, which I believe is to be on the soapbox and help get good legislation passed. We have a governor who, Governor Nevers, has constantly vetoed good Republican bills. And
Yep.
we're going to have a governor, and whichever one the primary voters pick, that will pass a lot of this same legislation, or hope to pass, I'm sorry, and sign it. And we're going
Mhm.
to need a full team that's out there in the state talking about the issues, because we know the liberal media is going to be pushing a narrative that's not exactly what the bill is going to contain. And we're going to have to be out there pushing against it. And I have shown and have the background that shows that I can do that I can articulate a message, and I can be a team player, and I can be out there talking about how these common sense pieces of legislation that I know the Republicans will send back to the next governor will impact families in our state.
Man, I love to hear that. What I'm hearing, and tell me if I get this right, you wanna be that person, that voice that helps amplify the governor's policy initiatives.
Yep.
If I had to sum it up in, like,
Yep.
a bumper sticker, that's kinda what I'm hearing, is amplifying what the governor's policy initiatives are. You can be the voice to help get out there and keep the momentum going, right?
Yeah. And it's not just following other people's ideas. I have my own ideas. I mean, if I'm elected lieutenant governor, we need to lower our taxes in our state. We need to be more competitive.
Yes.
I was a mayor of a city that sits in Grant County, which is bordered by Illinois and Iowa. And we are constantly competing with the states around us for businesses and employees. And I
That's
served a
right.
term as the president of Grant County Economic Development. And what did I see happening? We were gaining businesses from Illinois, and we were losing businesses and employees to Iowa. Why?
Yep.
Because we weren't the lowest in the Midwest. We need to change that. We need to keep men out of women's locker rooms in our state. We need to make sure that our local and state law enforcement agencies are working with federal immigration agencies to deport criminal illegal aliens. We need to make sure that parents have a voice in the education of their child and a choice to pick what they think is the best education for that child. And we need to make sure that we're increasing our expectations, our standards, and our test scores for our children. Not
100% agree.
not being like what we are seeing right now with an administration that's trying to lower those standards. So
Yeah. Oh,
those are
and not only that, but now they're hiding some of these grooming and illegal activities that are going on among staff members in different, I think it was it Racine County or Kenosha?
it's
Wherever the school
lots of
district
different
was, but
areas. Yeah,
it's ridiculous what's going
over
on
over
under
200
under
cases.
underly.
Over 200 cases is what was reported by the Cap Times
That's right.
in their article, and that is just, as a parent of two students, that's scary.
Yeah, no kidding. Well, and the other thing too that you mentioned, I really like to hear you talking about that idea of protecting the taxpayers and really being the person who helps to make sure that the government doesn't get out of hand and start taking too much. You know, and that finding that balance. God bless you for doing it in the city of Lancaster, and man, hopefully you'll be able to do it for the state of Wisconsin too.
Yeah, I actually, in October, because I wouldn't be able to make the budget hearing in November, I actually went to our city council meeting to speak out on a proposed 7.1% increase. So it doesn't end just because you're no longer mayor. As a taxpayer, I'm worried about what our community here is looking at and what they're proposing, and felt like, okay, I need to go make sure I'm home, and I need to go speak out against this.
God bless you, man. Yeah, and actually, that's a good point too. Like you were talking about earlier, the idea of an ordinary man and what we have the capability of doing. I mean, this country is the most amazing country in the world, and I mean, with especially because of God's blessings all across our land, we have the power as we the people to really make our voices heard
Mhm.
and take action across the country. One voice standing up can really make a difference.
Mhm. And one of the things I've done since I was mayor is, there was a year where I was a local candidate mentor with Rebecca Clayfish's 1848 project. And I've also been involved in local campaigns in my region, in my county, to, to help candidates, because a lot of candidates, they have good stories. They'll be good elected officials, but they don't know how
Mhm.
to campaign, what they need to file, how to go about running. And I've helped several candidates since I left office to run local campaigns, and most of them have been successful.
That's awesome. God bless you for doing that kind of work. Because I mean, as a guy who's getting ready to run for county board, I appreciate that, totally. Like, I was just talking to some other people in La Crosse County here who are interested in running, and it's like this idea of, like you said, sometimes first timers, they just have no idea where to start, right? So trying to put together like a checklist or even like a workshop, and I know 1848 Project are doing really great workshops to help local candidates get their feet under them in the right way. I mean, something as simple as, like, I was just talking to someone the other day, something as simple as, like, when you after you talk to somebody at their door, just go home and write a really quick little postcard and thank them for that opportunity to have that conversation. Really little things like that that people just don't usually think of. So all of these little things can help, and especially with someone like you who has the experience. God bless you for going out there and mentoring people.
Well, and thank you for running, because I was at a La Crosse County Republican Party meeting recently, and they were talking about some of the issues that they were having in the county and the need to recruit good candidates. So I appreciate you stepping up and being willing to do that.
Yeah, we need more. It really is. It comes down to we just need more people who have that mindset of protecting the taxpayers. The more people we get to do that, just kind of flood the zone in the old football term.
And if I can share a quick story for a moment, when I
You
was
bet.
a senior in high school in Southern California, and my government teacher had our local council member come in, and I'll never forget that she stood there and she said, "I impact your life more than the president of the United States and the governor of our state."
That's
And
right.
she went on to explain how if the water doesn't start in the morning or the power doesn't turn on, the city I lived in, it was a local power company that the city owned. She said, or the sidewalk is cracked or there's a pothole, who are you going to call? You're going to call me, and I'm going to be the one that's going to help you fix it. And I remember thinking, I never thought about that before. And that is something that I think a lot of people don't fully understand. You know, your local taxes, your local roads, those are government decisions made at a very local level. And knowing who your council member is, having those local relationships, running for local office, that impacts your life a lot more day to day than I believe the president does.
Yeah, I agree. I think it is one of the things that we talk about it a lot, and I don't know why people don't get it. You know, I know a lot of people like to focus on national news. I don't know, maybe because it's more sexy or something. But
Mhm.
honestly, you're 100% right. It's the local level that has the greatest impact on your life. It affects your property taxes. It affects your school taxes. It affects your children's education. I mean, these are very important things, and they're all at the local level with the people that you might run into at the grocery store.
Yep, exactly right.
But yeah, thanks for calling that out because it we're trying to find more and more people to run for these offices. And like I said, my opinion is let's flood the zone. Let's just
Mhm.
send everybody and then have a good quarterback, who can, throw the ball and hopefully one of them will catch it kind of a thing.
Yeah.
But speaking of that, um, I did want to talk to you about what it's like to try to balance. Like you said, you've already kind of indicated that you take your daughters with you on a lot of these different campaign trips, but obviously it's going to be grueling to get all over the state running for lieutenant governor. How do you balance that out to make sure that you're not that you're taking care of their needs as well?
Yeah, it's definitely a balance. I recently made sure to put on my calendar that there was a marching band concert that both of my kids were in, because one's in the middle school band, one's in the high school band, and I blocked out that night to make sure that I was here. Uh, Maybe I shouldn't admit my faults, but the last time I ran, so I was a lieutenant governor candidate in the 22 uh, time frame as well. I My kids were younger, and I thought I had made it to every school event, and I was telling somebody that like I didn't miss one. And my oldest, who's now 15 and a half, said, "Oh, that's not true. You missed one." And I said, "What do you
Oh,
mean I missed one?" And she said, "You missed my band concert that was like in January." And I was like, "I don't remember that." And she says, "Yep, you missed
she
it."
did.
And then I said, "Wait, was that the one that snowed out and then it was a different date?" And she's like, "Yep, you missed the snow date makeup." And I thought,
Mm,
okay, well, I was trying. At least I was trying. I had
yeah.
obviously blacked it out in advance and then missed it. But
Well, but here's the point, she remembers.
yes, they remember. And so I've tried
Yes.
really hard to make sure that when I know those dates of those concerts, my oldest is in a theater production that will be later in November, just making sure I have those dates on my calendar, making sure that they go with me at times. That was one thing that I think was a mistake last time is I didn't take them with me as much as maybe I could have. And so we're trying to rotate the kids and taking turns and who wants to go to this one, who wants to go to that one. And it's balancing out very well at this point. But right now I'm averaging over 1,500 miles a week. So I am gone a lot. You have to put the time in. I mean, Wisconsin is a big state, 72 counties.
Yeah.
I've done about 24 at this point, and just pushing ahead and trying to make sure that I'm making these events and going to these areas. Actually, more events than 24, but I've done about 24 counties, and getting out there as much as I can. But making sure that I schedule dates with my wife, and she's off on Wednesdays, for example, and I make sure that we do a date or we do a hike or we do something to spend time together. Making sure I take the kids with me on the weekends, making sure I'm home for things like school productions and Halloween. And, I'll be obviously off the trail and home for Thanksgiving and Christmas and those holidays, but making it a family event. And both of my kids really enjoy going out and talking to other people. And I recently was in Greene County in Monroe for a Lincoln Day dinner. And when I was walking out with my oldest daughter, she was telling me all the stories that people were telling her and different things, and they wanted to hear about her. And she had a great time. And she says, I love just to hear people tell stories. And I said, me too. I said that,
Yeah.
and it was just neat though for a 15-and-a-half-year-old to understand how important it is just to understand people's histories and stories and the knowledge and wisdom that
Yeah.
they pass along. And so my kids are enjoying being part of that.
That's great, man. And that's the other thing too. I think a lot of people take it for granted, but just being present in those moments, it it really goes a long way. And like you said, I mean, we all kind of have this, what is it? The need to belong kind of thing, right? And just telling stories and learning from other people. What a great opportunity for them to kind of be mentored and grow up in a good way like that.
Yeah, and it's fun too. Both of my kids are uh they're very good at band, singing, musical instruments. They play piano. They're both in band. They've been asked to do the national anthem, and there's already a
Oh,
Lincoln Day
fun.
dinner on the calendar that they're going to be singing the national anthem at. And so I think that's really great for them because they're getting really cool opportunities, but they want to be part of not only the campaign, but what's going on. They see it as a family effort, and that's wonderful.
Well, and what a great way for them to give back already with the
Mhm.
talents that they have. That's a great blessing.
Yeah, absolutely.
All right. Well, since this is kind of a job interview for you,
Yeah.
let's get into kind of a job interview type question.
Sounds good.
What what does a lieutenant governor Varnum look like in a couple of years? You're in the role, you're doing the thing. What does success look like for Lieutenant Governor Varnum?
I think it's working with the governor to pass bold initiatives and bold legislation and being a leader in our country and in the Midwest. I've already talked about, I think we need to be the lowest taxes in the Midwest. I think we can accomplish that. And I'm already hearing the governor candidates, they're talking about similar things. And I think being able to pass bold initiatives on finance, making sure that we're banning men and women's locker rooms, being very
Mhm.
bold on immigration and deporting criminal illegal aliens, making sure that we're improving our education system. I think as much as people want to believe that just throwing money at it is the solution, I think that's false. I think we need more parental involvement in education. That I think we need to be looking at raising our test scores and thinking outside the box. Why are we falling behind so many other states? I think it's because we're just trying to throw more money at it. And that comes directly from the fact that Governor Evers is holding up progress on that issue. That's his
Yeah.
solution is more money. I think Republicans have passed a lot of bold legislation when it comes to education, but he has not wanted to sign that. And I think
Right.
having a Republican governor in there that truly believes that there are good approaches to education that are outside the box, I think will be a success story for the state of Wisconsin.
Yeah, I love to hear that. And another thing too that I'm hearing in what you're saying, it's something that politicians don't usually use. It's almost like a dirty word, accountability. If we can just have a little bit of accountability, especially at the school districts, I mean, that to your point, I mean, they're just throwing money at it without any accountability. You're not gonna get good results with that.
Right. We're seeing the scores are falling. And why are they falling? Money's going up, scores are going down, something is wrong there. And Republicans have been talking about this for years, but it's been falling on deaf ears with the governor, not wanting to change the trajectory of what's happening. And I think we can change that trajectory with a Republican governor.
Yeah. No, I think that makes a heck of a lot of sense. Thanks for having that approach too, because I think it is important. That kind of goes back to the idea of, I mean, this is what it takes to protect taxpayers, right? We were just winding down right now, and before I let you get out of here, what is a good way for everyone in the audience to take a look at your candidacy, the policies that you want, and just get in touch with you?
Yeah, davidvarnam.com is my website. I'm also on X at dvarnam and on Facebook at David C. Varnam. And Varnam is spelled V as in Victor, A-R, N as in Nancy, A as in Apple, M as in Mary. There's no U's. I know it sounds like it has a U, but davidvarnam.com, no U's.
All right. Thanks so much for being here today. This was a lot of fun, and I hope you enjoyed it as much as I did.
I did. I had a great time. Really appreciate you having me on, Chris. Thank you.
Yeah, no problem. Maybe next time I can get you here personally in the speakeasy, and maybe we'll mix up a cocktail or two as well.
I think that sounds great. I'm through your area a lot right now, at least once a week. Really appreciate you having me on. Thank you for letting me share my vision for the great state of Wisconsin.
Hi, thanks for checking out this episode. If you like this content, then please visit cooleyconservatives.com and click the Buy Me a Coffee option to leave us a tip. And don't forget to follow us on Facebook, Twitter, and Truth Social. Oh, and you can get our content in your email inbox once a week by subscribing at cooleyconservatives.com. Thanks again. Take care and God bless.